Thursday, Israeli warplanes struck across Lebanon, killing at least 24 people. On Wall Street, another good day as the Dow was up by 123 points. The Nasdaq rose 119. More at townhall.com.
If you are 65 or older, you know this. Inflation is hitting everyone hard right now, especially when it comes to healthcare. Over the last 10 years, healthcare costs have skyrocketed by, get this, 230%. If you have Medicare Parts A and B, you know there are still out-of-pocket expenses like deductibles and co-payments, and they really add up. But here's some good news. MediShare 65 Plus is designed to fill in those gaps and help protect you from rising healthcare costs. At only $99 per month up to age 75, you get peace of mind at a price you can afford. And MediShare is trusted, too. It's been around 30 years. It's not some big impersonal thing. It's a community of people helping each other, business owners, pastors, retirees. People love it. MediShare 65 Plus just makes sense. To learn more, give them a call. They're great to talk to. They'll offer to pray with you each time you call, too. Call now, 855-PSALM-32. That's 855-PSALM-32. 855-PSALM-32. Bible.
Here's the Wall Street Business Report.
Stocks closed at more records after Donald Trump's latest talk about tariffs created only some ripples on Wall Street. The S&P 500 rose 0.6% to reach another all-time high. The Dow Jones Industrial Average added 0.3% to its own records set the day before, while the Nasdaq Composite rose 0.6% as big tech stocks helped lead the way. Stock markets abroad saw mostly modest losses. That's after President-elect Trump said he plans to impose sweeping tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China as soon as he takes office. The Dow was up 123 points today to close at 44,860. The Nasdaq gained 119 to 19,174. The S&P 500 added 34 points to 6021. For the Wall Street Business Report, I'm John Scott.
News and analysis at townhall.com.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. We're chilly this evening with a low dipping down to 45. Tomorrow, increasing clouds as the day progresses. Look for a high temp of 66. For Thanksgiving, we'll have on and off showers. It'll be heavy at times. The high reaches 72. A cold snap arrives for Black Friday. Mostly sunny skies, but only 58 as our high temperature. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point.
This is Sports Talk with Phil Kornblut and Chris Bergen. Sports Talk is heard across the state on radio affiliates of the Sports Talk Media Network and is streaming live on SportsTalkSC.com, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. The South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to call in is 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now, here are Phil and Chris with tonight's edition of Sports Talk.
All right, welcome in, everybody. Sports Talk Media Network. It is a Talking Tuesday brought to you by Touchstone Energy Cooperatives. Don't forget the Touchstone Energy Cooperatives Bowl coming up on December 21st. I was talking with Coach Scott early today, and things are just, got to wait for the high school season kind of to finish up and more teams to be eliminated before those players who are going to be in the game start to get more excited about the game. But they will, and they will have a great time at the beach that week. It's going to be an interesting week because you got Shrine Bowl that week as well, so it'll be a lot of all-star activity taking place. But today it's all about the annual showdown number 121 between South Carolina and Clemson up in Death Valley. And we'll continue to take your phone calls, your picks, your opinions, your observations. Don't hesitate to give us a call, 888-898-2525. South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number for you. To reach us here on Sports Talk, you can also shoot us a text message that we will respond to over the air. Shoot us a text at 803-900-4847, 803-900-4847. And if you're watching us on Facebook or YouTube, shoot us a message there as well. We'll be happy to respond to that. Phil Kornblut here in Columbia with Josh Cohen. And we have Chris Bergen at the Berge Palace over in Sardis. Hope you're feeling a little bit better.
I'm on the mend a little bit, back and forth. Anytime you can get a little sea air, because I was down towards the beach today, that always helps. I didn't jump in the water, but I was at least close enough to get the waft of a few waves.
The waft?
Over in Conway.
The waft?
The waft.
That might be the first time we've ever used that word on Sports Talk. Waft.
Well, let me make sure I used it correctly. It might be the last time we used it.
Sounds like a good word. I like that word. Waft.
Pass are calls to pass easily or gently through or as if through the air. So, yes, I did use it correctly. Excellent.
Well, now your weather was pretty nice. I drove up to Clemson. Smitty came to Columbia, covered the Gamecocks. I went up to Clemson and had a little rain, very little rain, overcast. And talking about the weather Saturday, it's going to be chilly.
Chilly. Mm-hmm.
Like 50 degrees around kickoff. So that's okay. 50 degrees, end of November. Going to have 82,000 of your close friends all packed in there together. It's going to be a heck of a day. Both of these coaches are very excited about this matchup because of the national attention, the fact that one or both could end up in the college football playoff. Who would have thought here in late November we'd be saying that sentence? Both of these teams could be in the college football playoff. I mean, that is really on the table. What time tonight, because of basketball and everything, what time tonight will the rankings come out? Still 7 or will it be later?
That's a great question because they just tipped off one of the semifinals at the Maui Invitational. So you're talking, 2 hours 15, probably after 8 o'clock, I would guess. But isn't that what we've been hoping for all these years? Mm-hmm. That this game not only has two really good football teams, which we have, but it has some sort of national relevance to it as well. I mean, I still think it's a long shot for the Gamecocks to get in. Clemson, they want to win the game, clearly. But this game really has no bearing on their situation to get into the playoffs because I don't think they get in as an at-large. So the bigger game for them, if you're just looking solely at the playoffs, is the Miami-Boston College game. Because if Boston College gets a win this weekend, then, lo and behold, Clemson will have a chance to play for the ACC title. And that's their best, in my opinion, best pathway to the college football playoff. That said, clearly they want to win the game just as badly as South Carolina does to enhance their at-large opportunities.
Yeah, I agree. I think that you focus on the state championship and then you let everything else, fall into place, and it will turn out the way it turns out. But I mean, look, they need help from Syracuse too. I mean, if they beat South Carolina,
Syracuse. I'm sorry, I think I said Boston College. It's Syracuse that's playing Miami, right?
Yeah, they need Syracuse, and you know what? I would not discount that possibility because the quarterback at Syracuse, Kyle McCord, he's playing as well as anybody in the ACC. Look at his numbers. I mean, this could be a real shootout between McCord and Cam Ward. Cam Ward, a more highly touted dude. But Miami's like the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, they win games, but they barely win. Now, they handled Wake Forest a little bit better, but Wake is down this year. This is not a good Wake team. The teams that they've played that have any sort of a pulse have given Miami trouble all season long. So I would not be shocked. And that coach at Syracuse, Brown, who came up from Georgia as the secondary coach at Georgia and became the head coach at Syracuse, he's done a heck of a job. You talk about coaches who deserve Coach of the Year honors. How about this guy at Syracuse?
Well, you've talked about Syracuse being a challenge for Miami, and I kept sort of poo-pooing that until I looked and saw what Syracuse's record is. I mean, they're playing for a 9-win season. And you talked about their quarterback. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, he's one of, if not the leading passers in the country. So, yeah, they're going to give Miami, I think, fits. And for this scenario to play out, if you're Clemson and realizing you can't control your own destiny, if you're trying to pick a team in the ACC, maybe Syracuse is the team you want playing for an opportunity for you to get in over Miami.
I think Syracuse is sitting on 7 wins right now, 7 or 8 wins.
They're 8-3.
They're 8-3.
They're 8-3.
Okay, they've had a very good season to this point. So, All right, our phone number, 888-898-2525. We'll hear from the coaches. By the way, Clemson basketball right now, the Tigers have just defeated Penn State, 73-67.
That's a big-time win for them.
That's a very good win for them. So that's in the Sunshine Slam there in, Daytona Beach, where they're playing down in Florida. So Tigers pick up a couple of wins down there. Just a quick look at the stats. 73-67. This game was pretty tight all the way. Tigers' largest lead was 7, and that was early in the second half. And Penn State's largest lead was also 7, and that was late in the first half. Both teams had 9-0 runs. Shefflin, big game for Clemson. He had 18 points, 13 rebounds, and 8 assists. He led the Tigers in all 3 categories. I tell you what, when I saw this guy as a freshman, I thought to myself, there is no way this guy's ever going to be a player at Clemson, And he's done nothing but made himself into a player. I mean, really, really good player. 18, 13, and 8. You would take those numbers any day. Chase Hunter had 17 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and Wiggins had 14 points, no rebounds, couple of assists, and Jones, the freshman who's playing well for them, he had 10 points in 17 minutes. Tigers shot 44% from the floor, 16 of 20 from the line, and they split on the boards 34 all. So that's a good win. Good win on a neutral court for the Tigers. So they've had a very productive trip down to Florida.
Yes. I've actually been to that arena. They played at the Ocean Center at Daytona Beach. That's where Coastal played the CBI tournament a couple of years ago. So it's really a block off the water at Daytona, so it's a pretty good setup. I did find this fascinating. Chase Hunter was fouled with no time left on the clock. They let him shoot the free throws. So the score, if the final now is 75-67, but I wonder why they would let him shoot those free throws other than gamblers wanting to make sure that the guys get all the points possible.
So he was fouled. He was fouled before the clock went off, though. Before the horn went off.
I didn't get to see the game. I'm just looking at the live stats, and it's reading zeros across the board. So clearly, he would have had to been fouled before the buzzer. I guess technically, if there's a tenth of a second left to go, he's got to go shoot the free throws. But I did find it interesting that everything's reading 0, and then they added 2 points to it. Yeah,
75-6. Did this change in the last couple of minutes?
I think it was changing while we were talking about it.
Okay, I didn't even notice. So it's gone from 73-67 to 75. Yes. That's even more impressive for Clemson. Then they're happy to take the 2 points. 75-67. And Hunter now with 17 points. So that must have happened while we were talking. 75-67, Clemson wins it. Of course, South Carolina last night, a loser to 22nd-ranked Xavier. The Gamecocks, they're struggling right now. They do not look like a real good basketball team at this point. They had their moments last night. They had, a 17-0 run that took them from
After
down.
giving up a 7-0 run to start the game.
Yeah, it took them from being down to being ahead. They led by 5 at halftime, but they could not hold on to the lead, and they got crushed on the boards last night, especially their defensive rebounding was terrible, and the free throw shooting continues to be suspect. It's a funny thing. Go back to the Worcester exhibition game where they shot free throws so poorly. I remember us talking about that, like, man, they really shot free throws poorly. Then they go to their first game of the season, they lose to North Florida, and they shot free throws poorly. And we're starting to think, well, it's just going to become a trend. And sure enough, I mean, they're shooting free throws like down the low 60% mark right now. So not shooting free throws well, didn't rebound well last night, got into some foul trouble. They got some work to do, and they play again tomorrow night, but they got some work to do to figure this thing out with the new parts that have come in.
First thing they've got to do, Colin Murray Boyles cannot pick up 3 fouls in the first half. He's got to stay on the floor. They need him to play over 30 minutes a game, and when he was sitting, late first half, that's sort of when Xavier got back in the ball game, and then the second half, Xavier just hit him with a run they couldn't handle. But he's got to learn to play without fouling because he is their key component. He is their most important player. They have to have him on the court, and he's got to figure out he's got to go to the glass too. I mean, 1 offensive rebound for a guy like him, that's unacceptable. And they got 4 total. Yeah, they've got to do a better job on the glass for sure if they're going to make any hay in the SEC, which continues to improve.
Yeah, All right, so wanted to move on to the football coaches, and we'll hear from them coming up. We're going to hear from Danny Cannell at the bottom of this hour. Danny Cannell, the former quarterback, now with CBS Sports, and he was with you once before when I was off one night, and he's going to be back with us tonight to talk about the South Carolina-Clemson game from a national perspective, and also the way things are shaping up from the playoffs and what he thinks might happen. He's been a guy who's been outspokenly anti-SEC. I think he believes, from what I've read and what I've heard from him, that the SEC gets way too much love from people, way too much attention. Now, he's a ACC guy, right, as a former Florida State quarterback.
Sure.
But you can't put the love on the ACC. I mean, there's really no, outside of Clemson and Florida, Clemson, Miami, and SMU, and there's nobody else really to talk about in the ACC as far as the playoff is concerned. I think maybe he's probably pushing to make sure the ACC gets at least two. But, you know, SMU and Miami, if those two meet for the championship, the loser is going to have a second loss. So I don't know that the committee would take the ACC championship game loser with a second loss, considering nobody in the ACC is hardly playing anybody of a ranked capacity, because they don't have any ranked teams in the league outside of Clemson and Miami and SMU. And Clemson, of course, didn't have to play any of those. And Miami and SMU didn't play in the regular season. The committee will look at the strength of schedule and maybe, turn their nose down at those teams if it comes to that for them.
Well, now, and the question is, all right, let's assume for a moment that Miami loses this weekend and Clemson gets in there to face SMU and SMU wins. Does Clemson's cachet, does their name, who they are, is that enough for them to possibly get in? I think a lot of it's going to depend on where they are this week and next week for sure. I mean, that may be a situation where the South Carolina game plays a factor for them. If they get to the ACC championship game and were to lose to SMU, are you going to take an ACC team with, what would that be, 3 losses and a win over South Carolina at the end of the year? Yeah, I just don't think so.
No, I mean, in Clemson's case, beat South Carolina but lose in the championship, have 3 losses. Yeah, I can't see it happening.
I don't think so either. That's why I said I think their only pathway is to win the automatic bid.
Well, and the good thing for them is they might have that chance if Syracuse rises up.
Yep.
As for the coaches today, we'll hear from them. A lot of good things, a lot of praise both ways, et cetera, et cetera. Clemson's press conference with Dabo Swinney was also influenced by the letter sent out earlier today to Clemson fans. Actually, it was posted on the website, the Clemson Tiger website, from Graham Neff, the athletics director at Clemson, a letter basically explaining or clarifying to Clemson fans Clemson's position now on revenue sharing and NIL. And what he's basically saying is Clemson is going to be very active on the NIL side of things, but also when the revenue sharing begins next year, that you'll have a maximum of $20.5 million. Every school that wants to participate in revenue sharing have a maximum of $20.5 million. And that Clemson, as Dabo Swinney said in his press conference, is not going to be outspent from a football standpoint. And following up on this, I read where Larry Williams from Tiger Illustrated doing further investigation, talking to his sources. What does that mean? That Clemson won't be outspent. Clemson will spend as much or have as much money to spend as anybody in the country. Well, Larry wrote that the plan at Clemson is to take that $20.5 million, and at least 80% of that will go to football.
Wow.
Now, I haven't done my math on that. If anybody wants to do the math on that and tell me what that figure is, but 80% of $20.5 million, which is great.
$16 million, somewhere in that neighborhood?
I guess. Sounds like it. Close. I'll buy it. And that's fine. That's absolutely cool if that's what you want to do. Now, this is the money for all athletes. And Clemson's going to add 150 new full scholarships across all sports, according to Graham Neff. So this is as they eliminate the cap on scholarships and have new roster limits for the teams in college sports. So you won't have the scholarship limits of the past, but you will have roster limits. So they plan to add 150 new full scholarships, is how he put it in this letter. So if you're going to take 80% of that and spend it on your football team, then that, you got 3 point something million left for everybody else. So that's fine. If you're Clemson and you look at your most successful remaining sports where you might have to spend some money, baseball would be one. How much do you pay baseball players and all this? Everybody thinks football players get all the money, and probably so, because that's the engine that drives the entire economy of an athletic program at this level. But if you're Clemson, you've got baseball players who deserve money. You got a soccer team that's won a national championship, and in the 16 of the next, I don't know how much you pay your soccer players and all that. My point is, a school that has other successful programs, if you take that much money and you apply it towards your football program, what does that do to the rest of your program? Take South Carolina, for example. Now, the Gamecocks have a women's basketball program that is obviously one of the best in the country. Don't worry about the loss the other night. They're still one of the best in the country. And they're recruiting against a few other teams that aspire to be great in women's basketball, where women's basketball is important. Women's basketball is important at the University of South Carolina. They draw huge crowds, and they play a lot on national television, and they've won national championships. They've got a very expensive head coach, and I imagine they've got players who are very expensive. So if you're South Carolina, can you take 80% of the 20.5 and put it towards your football program and still have enough to compensate your basketball players or the women's players? And I didn't even think about the men's side of it. Let me go back to Clemson. I forgot about men's basketball because, you got an NCAA tournament team. You had an Elite Eight team last year, and you may have an NCAA tournament team this year. And South Carolina had a tournament team last year. So my point is, if you're going to take 80% for football, which is fine, I think somebody's going to get shortchanged here down the road. Do you see where I'm going with this?
I do. And the first question that pops into my head is how this will fly with Title IX. But let's kick that can down the road for a minute. My guess is Clemson is looking at this, and I would assume all the programs, all right, the $20 million, is that a one-time payment or is that a yearly deal that they're going to be receiving?
That's a yearly deal.
Yearly deal. Okay. Let's assume for a moment they take whatever it is, $16, $17 million, and throw it into football.
Let me say this. That's the amount for 25-26.
Right.
That will be adjusted. That will be adjusted as years go. Let's see. We intend to share the maximum allowable amount of revenue with our students, up to approximately $20.5 million in 25-26. This cap is outlined in the House settlement and is the same for all schools nationally. I'm reading here what he wrote. These payments will supplement student-athlete scholarships. In order to effectively manage this process, we are establishing a centralized front office to oversee contract details, compliance, and allocation strategy. As we build out our staff for this new unit, we have retained expertise with professional sports backgrounds and negotiation skill sets. Now, a key word here, to oversee contract details. Does that mean contract with the athletes?
Got to. Yeah, I think that's coming. And where's this money? Where is the genesis of this money? Who's paying this money? Is this coming from the federal government?
No. This is the NCAA settlement.
Right.
With the House. The House
with it.
The House settlement. The House is the name of the lawsuit that they won against the NCAA.
So the NCAA is paying this money.
Well, the schools are.
So it's coming from the schools.
Because the NCAA is getting the money from the schools.
Right.
And then they're redistributing it to the schools.
Yeah, so they're giving it right back to the schools.
Yeah.
My thinking is what most schools would do, and I would imagine Clemson's going to be in this boat. We'll take the $20 million. We'll slice a huge chunk of it over to Clemson football, and then what's left we'll throw into our our pay for play. Can we stop calling it name, image, and likeness? Let's just stop with the fallacy that that's what this is. Let's go pay for play. They'll lump that in with all the other pay for play money, and that's how you supplement all your other sports. Football won't get, pay for play money anymore. They'll just get the house settlement money. Would that work?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's going to have to work because it's what's been outlined by the courts.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me say
my
one
point
thing.
is, I don't see if you're going to give 80% of that money, and that's the only money you have, then all your other sports have to suffer.
No.
And
Let me back up on something here real quick. This $20.5 million. This is the money the schools are getting from the settlement, okay, through the NCAA, which they are giving to the NCAA because remember they started budgeting to give this money to the NCAA. NCAA in turn has to return it to the schools, and this might be a one-time. I'm thinking this might be a one-time deal, but NIL collectives will continue to be a part of the process,
right?
And so they can supplement what you've gotten from this settlement. So you might have the $20.5 million, and part of what Neff is asking for here, and what they're doing at Clemson. See, Clemson fans, those who have been IPTAY members, they didn't want to give money to the collective because they didn't get anything back.
Right.
You give to IPTAY, you get these points, and that helps you with your tickets and your parking and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So now Clemson is adjusting that. Say if you give money to the collective, then you're going to get your IPTAY points from that as well. So you can help yourself from the standpoint of your giving and your tickets and your parking and everything else you get from being a member of IPTAY. You get that by giving money to the 110 Society, for example. Plus, part of his letter here is an anonymous donor has pledged an initial $3 million contribution to emphasize the IPTAY and 110 Society points program. So somebody is putting $3 million in the coffer here to help get the ball, keep the ball rolling, so to speak. And they're doing this. They need this NIL money now because the 20.5 doesn't kick in. You can't touch that until May. And you got recruiting to do right here. So they need money now up front to help deal with the recruits out there. All right, we'll pick up on this coming up. Be right back.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. We're chilly this evening with a low dipping down to 45. Tomorrow, increasing clouds as the day progresses. Look for a high temp of 66. For Thanksgiving, we'll have on and off showers. It'll be heavy at times. The high reaches 72. A cold snap arrives for Black Friday. Mostly sunny skies, but only 58 as our high temperature. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
As we celebrate 10 fantastic years at Sweet Comfort Services, we're cooling you off with unbeatable deals on all SEER 2 and high-efficiency AC equipment. Hey, Point family, mention this ad and get a thorough spring maintenance check from our expert non-commissioned techs for just $95 for your first system and a chill $45 each additional system. Look us up at sweethvac.com or call us at 331-8143. Celebrating a decade of keeping you cool and comfy. That's the Sweet Comfort promise.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting Israel has approved a ceasefire agreement with Lebanon's Hezbollah militants, setting the stage for an end to nearly 14 months of fighting linked to the ongoing war in the Gaza Strip. The ceasefire is set to take hold at 4 a.m. local time on Wednesday. Meanwhile, Israeli warplanes have carried out the most intense wave of strikes in Beirut and its southern suburbs since the start of the conflict. President-elect Donald Trump on Tuesday signed a required agreement with President Biden's White House to allow his transition team to coordinate with the existing federal workforce ahead of taking office on January 20th. The overdue agreement was supposed to have been signed by October 1st, according to the Presidential Transition Act. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 123 points. This is SRN News.
Right now, maybe
customer service. We all talk about how it's gone down the tubes in recent years, but not everywhere. Not with the Hickory Hill Insurance Agency. These are the folks I want you to feel comfy reaching out to for your Medicare and health insurance needs. Tim Hanberry and Medicare Blueprint have joined Hickory Hill Insurance. The result? Even better customer service with a bigger team to help you by utilizing the very best technology in the industry. And you know what else? Just plain old caring about people and treating them like their family. When you call them, you'll get a call back fast. When you need a question answered, they'll take the time to help. This industry is so confusing and so ever-changing. They have a team that knows the best plans for you. They'll ask all the questions, they'll get all the answers, and as always, it won't cost you a penny to get their services. The best way to learn more? Visit their website, partdandme.com. That's partdandme.com, or call the team at Hickory Hill Insurance Agency. They're local, and they're willing to talk one-on-one. Remember, customer service still matters. 708-7398, 708-7398, or online, partdandme.com.
Dave Ramsey here. Do you want your money to work for you rather than you working for your money? Go see my friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. They're not a mega bank and have been serving the Midlands since 1936, offering good old-fashioned customer service and free services. They'll look out for your financial well-being. With 14 locations, check them out today at palmettocitizens.org. Federally insured by the NCUA.
It's the best time of the year. December 14th, it's Parade Day and a holiday parade of lights, proudly presented by Lexington Medical Center and a Greater Casey West Columbia Chamber. The North Pole is open from noon to 4. Enjoy the unique art, the tasty food, and great shopping. And then come out and line the streets. The parade begins at 5:30. Everybody loves a parade. For more information, go to visitcwcsc.com.
Lots of plumbing companies out there. Few are truly local. Time to discover the difference with Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning. See, when I faced plumbing woes at the Cohen home, Josh and his dedicated team, well, they were my go-to solution. They make a commitment to exceptional service. They arrived on time, clearly detailed all the costs and procedures, and efficiently handled all my repairs without any surprises. These days, how often do we complain about a lack of customer service out there? With Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning, these folks are professional. They're courteous. They're skilled at what they do, and they've earned my trust, and they've earned my recommendation to you. From urgent repairs to the tankless water heater you've always wanted, they've got you covered. Visit franklinplumbing.sc.com or call 799-2222. That's 799-2222. Hey, you tell them Kev sent you from The Point. I'm pretty sure you'll want to thank me later.
All right, back on Sports Talk. It's Carolina-Clemson week, Clemson-Carolina week. It's the Palmetto Bowl week here on Sports Talk. We'll hear from the coaches here on this Talking Tuesday coming up in just a moment. Phil Kornblut and Chris Bergen and Josh Cohen. One more thought here going back to what Graham Neff sent out to IPTAY members today, and I'm still, personally trying to learn on the fly here about everything. But according to what I just read, the settlement payment is not just a one-year deal. There'll be future payments to the schools, up to, I think, $23 million from what I just read and trying to understand how all this is going to work. So it's not just May of 2025. Every year for the foreseeable future, around that date, the schools will receive that money to be shared as they see fit with their athletes across the board in their athletic program.
Like Bobby Bonilla Day.
Exactly. Well put, well put. All right, time to welcome back to Sports Talk for a second time. I wasn't here the first time around, so I'm glad I get a chance to talk with him as well. Former Florida State NFL quarterback, current broadcaster, man with some strong opinions, and I love him. Danny Cannell joining us here on Sports Talk. And happy birthday to you, sir. 5 days ago. Great to have you with us.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Happy Thanksgiving. Hopefully you guys are all ready,
sir.
man. It's crazy to think this college football season is coming down to a close. It's rivalry weekend. It's always my favorite time of the year because most people, I don't know about you guys, my kids were out all of school this week, and now we got Thanksgiving. We got football weekend. It's my favorite time of the year, man. So it's great to be on with you guys.
We appreciate it very much. And, yeah, it's great. It's buzzing around this state. And you've been in that situation before, dealing with great rivalries. But I tell you what, before we get into things, I love your give and take and your refusal to give in when you have an opinion and you're going back and forth with people. I was just noticed the little battle with Chipper Jones earlier this week. That would be the last person I would expect to come out of the woodwork and take you on. But you and Chipper kind of got at it a little bit.
Well, yeah, it's been a little one-sided because I can't even reply to him. He blocked me, which I think is kind of weak. You know, I always thought baseball players were a little bit soft, but now it's just confirmed. Like, he won't even let me go back. Here's the thing. I admired Chipper Jones a ton from afar, and then out of nowhere, it comes out this tweet. Because I was being a little usual snarky self for, just watching the Florida Gators beating at a nice win. And so it was really, I was trying to mock them a little bit, but it was a backhanded compliment. They did, to call them the Kansas Jayhawks of the SEC is actually a compliment. Kansas had routed off 3 top 10, wins versus top 10 teams. Florida looked like they were kind of on the up, so I congratulate them, and Chipper Jones didn't take too lightly of it. And then he blocked me. That's the thing I had the biggest problem with. Like, if you're going to say something, I'm fine with that, but at least let me kind of go back and forth, have some fun with it. But he wasn't having any fun. He didn't want any part of it.
I didn't realize Chipper was such a big Gator.
I had no idea either. The other thing I learned about him, and I didn't know this, is that he actually at a high school had committed to the University of Miami. So he's 0 for 2 in his school choices. I mean, he's got the wrong ones he's cheering for.
Danny, do you think he was upset at you because you didn't have him on his top 12 or your top 12 Atlanta Braves of all time? Do you think that's where it may have started?
Oh, no, that was after. That was me. That was all me. I had to make that list after he blocked me. Then I had to go re-rank him. I had to go re-rank them. And, it's funny because a bunch of people pointed out that Andrew Jones was left off the list. And so I said that's the one omission that I would go back and correct. But Chipper Jones, he's done to me. He's dead to me.
That's great. That's great. You guys are something else. All right, so
I think we need to settle it like men, like real men, and just settle it on the golf course, because that's where real men settle things. That's why I want to take him out on the golf course.
Now he's pretty good on the golf course, isn't he?
I think so. I'm not bad myself.
Yeah.
That's why I think we could go at it. I think it'd be pretty fun.
I'd love to see that. So you have been one of the few out there to be outspoken regarding the SEC. You're not drinking all the SEC Kool-Aid about 3-4 SEC teams needing to be in this playoff.
3 or 4, man, they were trying to get 5 and 6 in the playoff. I mean, a week ago, that's where it was. I mean, they had, and I've seen a lot of people saying, 6 teams were in contention and in the conversation. Could it be a possibility? And then how quickly things kind of evaporated right before our eyes. Because, and this is really what I've been saying, it's not as much on the SEC as it is about the entire country of college football. There's more parity than there's ever been before. With the portal and the combination of portal and NIL, you've seen the talent spread out. It's kind of thinned out through college football, which I think is awesome because we've seen these programs that have, never had a chance really against the blue bloods of college football. All of a sudden, like a Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt historically has not been very good. They knock off Alabama for the first time in 20 years. Indiana is a great example. They haven't been relevant in I think they haven't been 10-0 in school history, and yet here we are 10-0. Army, Navy, they were both undefeated for the first time through 7 games since 1940s. I think all of these things, these historical precedents are being set because there's more talent on everybody's roster. Usually you could stockpile it at Georgia, Ohio State, Clemson, Florida State, but now you can't hoard all the talent, so it spreads out and goes to other schools, which is great because then it makes all these teams much more playing on equal footing, which hasn't exactly always been the case.
Absolutely. And with the portal and now with the money flowing around, I think you're going to see the talent spread around even more because players are jumping to where they can get the bag, so to speak. You can like it or not, but it's just like NFL with even greater free agency than the NFL. You're an NFL guy. You had to sign a contract, and you were stuck with that team unless they cut you or traded you. A college kid, he can up and leave, and he can do it before the season's over. He can now do it before the bowl game is played. So they can just up and go whenever they decide they're done.
Yeah, that's the one aspect we got to get under control somehow. And I think it's going to happen sooner rather than later. But Lenore Sellers is an incredibly talented quarterback for South Carolina. You guys are familiar with his work.
Mm-hmm.
He's a freshman, so he can be a free agent after this season. He could go hit the open market, and South Carolina is going to have to pull together some money to make a competitive offer, or else, Alabama, Georgia, whoever's in the market for a quarterback is going to throw a serious amount of money at him, and he's going to have a tough decision to make. And you're really I used to get bothered by all this, and it used to bother me a lot, and it still does.
Mm-hmm.
But I've kind of just, all right, this is what it is. Like if I was a kid and you were allowed to do this according to the system, you'd be kind of crazy not to at least enter the portal to see what's out there. I don't agree with it. I don't love it, but you'd be crazy not to get your fair market value. Like all of us, we have jobs. If our contracts are up, or if we just have 1-year contracts, which is essentially what they're paid, we'd all want to know what the market is. We just want to, hey, I work for Sirius, I work for CBS. I'd be curious, what's the market for Fox and the ESPN? And if they're willing to pay me more, I'd probably go, and everybody else in America would too. It's just it's the beauty of our country, and college football players for the first time have been able to enjoy it. But the pendulum has swung too far, right? That's exactly what we're talking about, where they need to start getting contracts that are 2 and 3 years, that maybe have incentives in them, that also have, clauses in them where if you want to go to another school, much like a coach, if the coach leaves, you get a buyout. I think we're going to get there. It's just it's painfully slow, the process that it's taken to get there.
Well, I think we had too much hit college football at one time. We had expansion.
Agreed.
We had the portal. We had the settlement. We had the money being paid now. I think it was too much for college fans to take in all at one time. And I mean, throw me right in the middle of that as an observer and offering opinions. I thought at first, like everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people, this is going to be terrible. It's going to just kill programs, blah, blah, blah. But in reality, I don't think the television ratings have ever been higher. I see teams selling out games all over the country, even this late into the season. I don't see where it's hurt anybody in any way at this point.
No, it hasn't. I mean, everyone's getting a piece of the pie, which I think is a good thing. It's been wild. I think made their jobs that much tougher are coaches. And a lot of people don't feel bad for coaches because they're like, oh, Dabo makes $12 million. Kirby Smart makes $13 million. These coaches are all millionaires. But it has made their jobs miserable. I mean, I talked to a lot of them, and it's just impossible to try to manage a roster. And that from that standpoint, I sympathize with them. I think all the points they make are valid. And a lot of them got into this business to mold young men and to turn them from boys to men and to, to have them for 3 and 4 years. And I know Dabo's a big proponent of that, and that was the experience that I had. And I admire guys for having that. And I think there still is a place for that. And I think Dabo's been able to kind of insulate Clemson from the massive turnovers that you're seeing on some rosters. But ultimately, it's like no one cares what the coaches think. No one cares that the coaches complain. And like you said, ratings are up, interest is up. So no one's in a real hurry to try to fix it and corral it. And, everyone's looking at each other. We're asking politicians to step in, which is a disaster. We're having to go before courts and people are suing to see what's right. Nobody's speaking on behalf of the players like a union. So it's a complete mess. But the beauty of it all is that the product still on the field is the best that we've ever seen it. Like, it's a ton of fun. We've seen wild upsets, crazy finishes, and it's awesome for the fans, unless you were like somebody that loved watching a player come into Clemson or Florida State, and you watched him as a freshman, and he may have played a couple series, and then as a sophomore, he gets his first start, and then as a junior, he becomes like an All-American, and you really get attached to these players. That's the one thing that I miss about the game is those types of players that you become attached to as a university and as a fan base.
Mm-hmm.
CBS sports analyst, along with SiriusXM's Danny Cannell with us here tonight. Danny is coming on courtesy of BetOnline.net. All right, Danny, let's get into a couple of games this weekend on Rivalry Week, and let's start here in the Palmetto State. You, from sort of that 1,000 feet in the air view, how do you see Clemson, South Carolina? Where do you see the advantages on both sides?
Am I crazy to think this is the most there's been at stake in this rivalry? And I get rivalries always mean something, but I think this is legitimately for a chance to play in the college football playoff, and we haven't seen that. Maybe, sure, you've had South Carolina could knock Clemson out of the picture. That's been in play. But for both of these teams to be sitting where they are with 9-2 and 8-3, and I do think if South Carolina is able to go on the road and pull off the upset, I think they'd be right on that bubble. And the way we've seen the rest of college football work, there's going to be surprises this weekend, so they might play themselves all the way into the party. And Clemson's in the same boat. Like, I think if Clemson takes care of business at home, I think they're sitting right where they need to be. So I think there's incredible at stake here, maybe more so in the last 20 years in this rivalry game. And I think it boils down to a couple things. One, which version of Clemson are you going to get? Are you going to get the one that played against Georgia, which, struggled for a half and then got, actually played pretty good on defense for a half, and then like the dam broke in the second half? Or you're going to get the version against Louisville, which struggled the entire game. I don't think you get that. I think you get the best version of Clemson, and they're going to be tasked with shutting down Lenore Sellers' legs. I mean, that's basically what you have to do to shut down South Carolina. And I still think Clemson defensively will be able to do that better than any of these last four opponents that South Carolina has beaten. I think Clemson is equipped to do that. And the one thing I've noticed from college football this year more than most, home field is massive. And that's why I do like Clemson to win and get it done at home.
And Danny, if that does come to fruition, it doesn't really help them or hurt them with regards to the ACC championship game. But do you think Clemson gets some help from Syracuse on Saturday to have them sort of backdoor their way into the ACC title game?
So I live in South Florida, and I have a bunch of friends who are Hurricanes fans. And I've been telling them all week, and even for the last couple weeks, I'm like, be careful of that last game against Syracuse. That is a good football team. Kyle McCord has been outstanding. He's probably one of the better quarterbacks in the country after transferring from Ohio State. The number's pretty big. Like, I think Miami will get it done. I think it could be close. But you're right. Every Clemson fan should be wearing their orange and just put a little S on there over it and root for Syracuse to win that game, because that's their ticket to real, like, where they control their own destiny. Then you play the ACC title and you play your way in. But even if they don't, here's my thing with Clemson, which I think should be rewarded, but people have been, criticizing Clemson for their performance against Georgia. Shouldn't they be rewarded for scheduling that game? Like, that's been my point. And it's hurt a couple teams in the 4-team playoff. We saw it hurt Oregon. They lost to an Auburn team in that same game in Atlanta, first game of the year. They were a 2-loss Pac-12 champion, got left out. Clemson, if they had scheduled a group of 5 team or an FCS opponent or anybody that Ohio State had played basically in their 3 non-conference games, they would have won. And they would have been sitting here at 11-1, and they probably would be in the top 12 squarely. Like, they probably would be 9 or 10 looking at a win, guaranteeing them a spot in the playoffs. And instead, everyone's like, oh, they didn't look the part against Georgia. What a bad loss that is. That's got to keep them out. And that drives me nuts, because no one else had the guts to play Georgia, but Clemson did. And I get it wasn't close, and it was close for a half, but like the second half did get away from them. But this is a different team now. Cade Klubnik's a different quarterback. He's playing with way more confidence. Like, I think Clemson should be rewarded for playing that game if they're compared with similar resumes, and they got the help they needed with all those 2-loss teams in the SEC becoming 3-loss teams. So in my mind, Clemson, if they win against South Carolina, I think they should be in, not because of the loss against Georgia, but because the fact they scheduled that game. I think they should try to reward teams that schedule tough.
Danny, we have got to hit our break. We thank you so much. Boy, that was awesome. Hopefully we can do this again a third time with you, maybe around playoff time. That'd be super if we can work it out.
That would be awesome. I can't wait to see who these teams are going to be. It's going to be fun.
And unless the Giants call you to come quarterback for them, good gracious.
I don't want to play behind that offensive line.
Can't blame you.
You have a great Thanksgiving, and thank you so much, and we'll be watching and reading your stuff. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Danny Cannell, Sports Talk. Back in a moment.
I'm State Treasurer Curtis Loftus. Whether it's becoming a teacher, dentist, or engineer, every child deserves the chance to chase their dreams. Investing in a child's education with Future Scholar, South Carolina's 529 College Savings Plan, can help turn those big dreams into next steps. So don't wait. You can start with any amount. Contributions are tax deductible and earnings grow tax-free. Discover the smart, easy way to save for college at futurescholar.com.
Farm Bureau insurance agents live and work right in our community. They're not at the end of some 1-800 number thousands of miles away. The personalized attention, competitive rates, and a reputation for fast, fair claim service sets Farm Bureau insurance apart from the competition. For your auto, home, and life insurance needs, trust Farm Bureau Insurance. In Clinton and Lawrence, give Buddy Bridges a call at 864-984-0413 or stop by the office at 726 East Main Street in Lawrence to see how local makes a difference.
South Carolina's taste buds have spoken, and they're asking for beef. There are more than 7,800 farms raising cattle from pasture to plate in the Palmetto State. So whether it's steaks on the grill before the big game, sirloin medallions plated for date night, or burgers with a family, make sure beef is a part of your playbook this football season. Smoked, grilled, and slow roasted. Find the best way to enjoy your beef at sccattle.org. Beef, it's what's for dinner in South Carolina. Funded by the South Carolina Beef Council, part of the Beef Checkoff program.
The South Carolina Education Lottery has a new rolling jackpot, and trust me, our state hasn't seen anything this big before.
How big? Harbortown Lighthouse big?
Bigger.
Bigger than the Ravenel Bridge?
Even bigger.
Not bigger than Table Rock.
With this new rolling jackpot, Palmetto Cash 5 is officially too big to ignore. Palmetto Cash 5 draws nightly, so play today. Check if your numbers are winners in the Players Club app or at sceducationlottery.com. Overall odds are 1 in 10. Top prize odds are 1 in 850,668.
Calling all turkey hunters, this is Major Billy Downer with the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. Turkey season is coming soon. The most common accident while turkey hunting is failing to identify your target. Know the identifying features of a turkey. Make sure of your target and what lies beyond it before you pull the trigger. Remember, safe hunting is no accident. For more information on hunter education, visit dnr.sc.gov.
In Columbia, South Carolina, game days are our specialty. Whether you're watching the game from inside the stadium or from the big screen at your favorite local spot, the energy remains the same. Craft the perfect fall Saturday in a city where there is plenty of action on and off the field. From tubing and kayaking to Soda City to rooftop restaurants and plenty barbecue. We're ready when you are. Plan your weekend at experiencecolumbiasc.com.
I'm attorney Jim Corbett. That's the sound of a big hit on you and your car or truck. I've been an attorney for more than 30 years, helping people who get injured in car wrecks and truck wrecks. If you have serious injuries, call Jim Corbett, 803-765-2968, or email me at jim@jimcorbettattorney.com. That's Corbett. I don't get paid unless I recover for you. Jim Corbett Attorney, for your best recovery from a big hit, 803-765-2968, or jim@jimcorbettattorney.com.
Touchstone Energy Cooperative members save more on electricity, and members save more on insurance, groceries, healthcare, restaurants, travel, concerts, and sporting events through Co-op Connections. Touchstone Energy is an alliance of the member-owned electric cooperatives, and as a member, the power is yours. Experience the power of co-op membership with Touchstone Energy and find out how much you can save on electricity and a whole lot more at touchstoneenergy.com.
All right, Danny Cannell, thank you very much. Yeah, too bad we ran out of time because I know that you would take exception to his remarks about crediting somebody just for scheduling somebody.
Danny's better than that. You can't just schedule somebody. I mean, if that's the case, then South Carolina should schedule every top 10 team in the country. Whether or not they win, then his argument is whether they should go to the playoffs. No, you need to win those games. I admire Clemson and Georgia for scheduling one another. I wish they'd have played home and home, but nonetheless. But no, Clemson should not get credit for scheduling Georgia when they get blown out. Yeah, that's a silly argument, and Danny's better than that. And by the way, did you know that he is, speaking of the Tigers, he has been Middlebrooks' uncle?
I didn't know that until you told me that.
Doing some research for the first time we had him on, and now he followed NC State. You know that had to be tough for a Florida State guy, but he followed NC State all the way through the tournament last year, wearing a shirt that said, "I'm Ben Middlebrooks' uncle."
He's also a baseball guy. He was drafted by the Yankees once and drafted by the Brewers once, but opted to go to the NFL. All right, I just wanted to wrap up this House versus NCAA stuff as I'm reading more just to get it out there correctly. Not that this is new news. You've known about this, but I wasn't sure. So actually, the settlement was for a total of over $2.5 billion. The first payment is due on May 15th, and it's going to be paid out over 10 years. So for the next 10 years, schools will get this money. The settlement includes a revenue-sharing concept that allows schools to share up to, this says, $23 million annually with their athletes. The settlement includes increased benefits for student-athletes such as increased scholarships, the ability to pay student-athletes for the use of their NIL, additional benefits over and above annual existing scholarships. The settlement is still pending approval from a judge, and the final approval hearing is scheduled on April the 7th. So that kind of sums all that up. Now, you'll hear when we get to the coaches in the next hour, and we'll do recruiting as well, but you'll hear Dabo Swinney ask the question towards the end of the audio we're going to play about his statement in 2014 that if they paid him, then he'd be looking to go somewhere else. And he denied saying that. And then
I know. He keeps moving the goalpost on his statement, but that's exactly what he said.
Well, I've got the exact quote.
But everybody knew at the time it was ridiculous.
I've got the exact quote, and I'll read it when we play the audio. I'll read the exact quote after we hear what he has to say. But, I mean, you can spin it however you want to. Mm-hmm. I mean, technically speaking, if you wanted to go by the definition of the word professional, they've been professional ever since you gave them scholarships, because the word professional means receiving something in return for your services. So whether you're being given a scholarship, having your education paid for, or you're being given millions of dollars, somebody's giving you something for your athletic skills, let's say, well, that makes you a professional. I mean, Josh is a professional as he sits behind this microphone, a darn good one at that. All right, top of the hour. We'll be back.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. President Biden says Israel and Hezbollah have agreed to a ceasefire.
Under the deal reached today, effective at 4 a.m. tomorrow local time, the fighting across the Lebanese-Israeli border will end. Will end. This is designed to be a permanent cessation of hostilities.
The president says he hopes the peace deal between Israel and Hezbollah can lead to an end to the fighting in Gaza.
Over the coming days, the United States will make another push with Turkey, Egypt, Qatar, Israel, and others to achieve a ceasefire in Gaza. With the hostages released and the end of the war without Hamas in power, that becomes possible.
His announcement came as Israel's cabinet approved the ceasefire after urging from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Walmart has become the latest and biggest company to roll back its DEI policies.
Walmart, the world's largest retailer, is rolling back its diversity, equity, and inclusion policies, joining a major list of corporations that have been under pressure by conservative activists. The company confirmed to the Associated Press that it'll better monitor its third-party marketplace items to make sure they don't feature sexual and transgender products aimed at minors. I'm Haya Panjwani.
President-elect Donald Trump on Tuesday signed a required agreement with President Biden's White House to allow his transition team to coordinate with the existing federal workforce ahead of taking office on January 20th. The overdue agreement was supposed to have been signed by October 1st, according to the Presidential Transition Act, and the Biden White House had issued appeals in both public and private for Trump's team to sign on. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Hi, Mom. Ooh, it's so cold out there. Surprise, I brought you something.
Socks. Oh, heat holders original. Wow, this is so soft and cozy.
Heat holder socks are the warmest. I use them for snow sports and around the farm. I also bought a bunch for my new work site. The other guys were so jealous they all bought them. And the best part is the socks come in 3 levels of warmth. Originals, lights, and ultralights.
Oh, Jill can use the ultralights when dog walking. Oh, boy. I know what everyone is getting for gifts this holiday.
Heat holder socks are the warmest. An independent lab test proved they're 7 times warmer than cotton socks. We use a proprietary 3-stage process, advanced insulating yarn, a long loop thermal pile, and brushed on the inside. This process helps trap warm air closer to your skin longer, keeping your feet warm, comfortable, and dry, making heat holders the softest, warmest, and most comfortable socks guaranteed. We also have hats, gloves, throws, and so much more. From now until Cyber Monday, use the code HEAT25 to save 25% off your order. Free shipping for orders over $25. Go to heatholders.com.
Former New York mayor and Trump attorney Rudy Giuliani was back in court on Tuesday, trying to shield some of his assets from the penalties in his defamation case.
In an angry outburst in a New York courtroom, Rudy Giuliani accuses a judge of making wrong assumptions about him after ordering him to turn over most of his assets to 2 election poll workers who won a $148 million libel case against him. Outside court, Giuliani doubled down on the judge.
His background is serious left-wing Democrat. Yes, he was appointed by Trump.
Federal Judge Louis Lyman said he's not going to let Giuliani blurt things out anymore unless he's a sworn witness. The judge also refusing to delay a January 16th trial over what happens to Giuliani's Florida residence and his World Series rings. Julie Walker, New York.
News and analysis at townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters. The holiday
on-point weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. We're chilly this evening with a low dipping down to 45. Tomorrow, increasing clouds as the day progresses. Look for a high temp of 66. For Thanksgiving, we'll have on and off showers. It'll be heavy at times. The high reaches 72. A cold snap arrives for Black Friday. Mostly sunny skies, but only 58 as our high temperature. I'm Cal Moss with your on-point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point.
Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. You can reach the guys with the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number, 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now back to Phil and Chris with the second hour of Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
All right, we're back. It is Sports Talk. It's a Talking Tuesday here on Sports Talk. We just heard from Danny Cannell. We'll have that up in podcast form for you after the show, in case you missed it. He was excellent. Love talking to people who, love to say what's on their mind. That's what we like to do here on Sports Talk. It is a Talking Tuesday presented by Touchstone Energy. We're going to hear from the head coaches here coming up momentarily. And basketball, Clemson beat Penn State 75-67, so the Tigers go 2 for 2 on their trip down in Florida. Got several messages thrown at us here from our stream, so let me hit on a few of these. You talked about the foul, the end of that basketball game, Chris. Troy writes the foul at the end of the game occurred with 0.3 seconds left.
Okay.
All right.
Cool. Very good. Thank you, Troy.
Let's see here. This is from Big Chicken Guy. Anybody here named Guy? Guy, read the settlement. That's the money the schools have to pay the other players.
That's Big Chicken Guy 61, actually.
Big Chicken 61. No, he's saying Guy. He's like calling us Guy.
Okay. Yeah. Big Chicken
Guy.
61.
Yeah. Lawsuit, settlement, each school in Power 4. Yeah, we got that. Thank you, Guy.
And that's what you read, right?
Thank you, Guy. Jody's got Clemson 45, USC 31. You know, Danny Cannell pointing out the home field, something to think about. So Jody's got Clemson 45, USC 31. Stephen, we haven't mentioned that Mac Brown got fired today by North Carolina.
How about that?
Yeah, instead of letting
the day
him come
after
back.
he said he was coming back.
Yeah. Jamie Chadwell, he said, who would be a good replacement? My pick would be Jamie Chadwell. Bingo, bango. Jody says Dion. Thank you, Jody. Russell, this should be an easy transition for Clemson. They've been paying players for years. Okay.
SMU ought to win the next 10 national championships if that's the case, because they've been doing it since the 80s. They were way out in front of everybody.
More from Russell. Danny's nothing but a troll. Glad his opinions don't really matter. All right. Doc says, Phil, this show is too good for Danny. I like him. What's the problem here?
I do too. I don't have a problem with him. I thought he was really, really interesting the time we had him on before.
Yeah.
And I thought he was good again tonight.
Let's see. Wesley, Gamecocks 35, Clemson 21. Double R. Okay, Phil, I'm sure Sports Talk has a national journalist with an SEC background lined up this week as well, right? Mike Morgan will be on with us tomorrow night. Mike has an SEC background. In fact, that's basically what he is, SEC. So there, Double R. Doc says, what Double R said, Phil. So, Doc, same back at you. Mike Morgan with us tomorrow night. Thank you. Let's get a little quicker on the gong, will you? Good God. A little quicker on the gong. Russell, Danny is a clown. Be rewarded for scheduling a game. Now, you agree with that, Chris? That's sort of your take as well.
Yeah, no, I think that's ridiculous. I mean, you shouldn't be rewarded for just playing the game. You should be rewarded for playing the game and winning the game. That's the bottom line.
Russell says, guess it makes some sense, though. They have to go outside the ACC to play a top-tier team. And Eddie says, Russell, you're right. Step out of the ACC to play one tough opponent. Anyone can maybe left out the word win. One game like that and then dance through the weaknesses. Okay. Thank you there. Thank you. Appreciate the comments. Now let's go to Dabo Swinney up at Clemson talking about, first of all, most of this is about the game. Towards the end, we get over to questions about NIL and revenue sharing because it became an issue at Clemson today because their AD, Graham Neff, put out a letter to IPTAY members, Clemson fans, about what Clemson is going to be doing here with this revenue sharing money and also what they're doing with NIL, saying if you give to the Clemson NIL, the 110 Society, as an IPTAY member, you get privileges, you get your points, just like if you were giving the money to IPTAY. So now you don't have to make a decision based on that. You can give to the NIL where the money goes to the players into their pockets, or you can give to IPTAY where the money goes, I guess, to the scholarships and also to facilities and things like that. But first, it's all about the Gamecocks and this game with Dabo Swinney.
Excited the week's finally here. This is always a fun week. You get the rivalry game, back on on the national stage, and it's what we got this week. So, it's fun to be a part of it. I think Shane's done an outstanding job. He and his whole staff. I mean, they're playing with a ton of confidence. Coming in here with a 5-game winning streak. They're 8-3, and really they're 5 points away from being 10-1. So it's a really good football team. Offensively they've gotten better and better. The quarterback as a first-year starter has just like our guy last year. You saw Cade get better as the season went. That's what you've seen with Sellers. But as good a 1-2 combination as you're going to see out there with he and the running back. Really create a lot of problems running the football. I mean, they do a great job in executing their scheme. I think the OL has the same thing. They've had some new people this year. They've gotten better on this 5-game winning streak as they've moved forward. Playmakers have emerged. Their receivers, they had some new pieces there the early part of the season, and those guys have really come on. I mean, 6 and 8 and 14 and 3, all those guys are making plays. Big-bodied guys. So I just think they've done a nice job, really, schematically and just improving throughout the year. And again, they are playing right now to me as well as anybody, playing with a ton of confidence, and again, executing at a high level, and playing with a lot of belief. And then defensively, I think it's as good as we've seen. I mean, they're a great defense. A lot of this is pretty much mostly the same guys that we played against last year. Those guys have been around there forever inside. They got one new backer in there, pretty much the same secondary guys. But them 2 ends are a problem. Those guys have really created some destruction on that side. The Kennard kid, I believe that's how you say it, he 5, great player. He's leading them in sacks and TFLs, and the young freshman is second, right behind him. So 2 very disruptive guys. They all play hard. They run to the ball. So it's a good football team, across the board, and it should be a heck of a game. It should be a great game, and again, it's great for I think our state and this rivalry to have it's the highest ranked rivalry game in college football this year. So it's a great stage for both schools, and look forward to competing in it.
A lot of Sellers' success comes when the play breaks down. He's able to get out of the pocket, defenders bounce off of him. How dangerous have you seen him be when he's able to create?
Real dangerous. I mean, you don't have to go back very far than the Missouri game, right? I mean, that game's probably over if they sack him. I mean, it'd have been, I can't remember if that was second or third down, but it would have been like, 3rd and 100. And somehow he gets out of that sack and finds an open guy, and it's a huge play. That's what he does. That's today's game, I mean, if you don't have a quarterback who can make plays like that, you're at a disadvantage. That's what everybody's trying to find and recruit, is guys that can on paper, you got them, but you don't. And that's kind of who he is. I mean, he can really make a lot of plays. And they obviously their scheme is gonna accentuate his skills between he and that running back. I mean, it's they got a lot of quarterback counter, a lot of swap zone, a lot of influence swap zone with option, kind of like what we saw last week with the dive and the tight end coming across with the bluff out to block, and then he's pulling it if the end squeezing, and now he's on the edge and he's got an option guy. It's a lot going on, and then when he does drop back, a lot of play action off of that, a lot of boots, a lot of RPOs, a lot of screen game. But when he does drop back, if you don't cage him up and he gets on the edge, you better cover those guys forever, because he creates a lot of big plays. Again, throwing it and running it. I mean, and he's just I think he's a really good player, and he seems like a great kid. He seems like a great leader, and you can kind of see that in how the guys play around him. So he's a problem. He's a real problem.
As you mentioned, Missouri had an opportunity for a sack. How hard is it to get him on the ground from what you've seen just overall? Yeah. And is it just because he's just strong and just big, strong dude?
Yeah, he's 242 pounds and can really run. I mean, he's fast. He's big. He's a big kid. So it's just hard to tackle him. I mean, he doesn't go down easy. And this is, 6'3", 242 pounds, and can run the way he runs. I mean, oh, and by the way, he's got something on his right shoulder here that can rip it down the field while he's running. I mean, it just puts a lot of pressure on you. So that's why they've had a lot of success. They got a great quarterback play and a great run game. And when you have that, you got a chance to be successful when you can play good defense. That's how we've won around here forever. Being able to run the ball, great quarterback play, and being really good on defense. So he's just physically a very gifted young man, big, strong, and can break tackles. He's got the physical strength, and he's just gained his confidence, as he's gone through the year and he's gained some experience. He's not a first-year starter at this point. I mean, he's in game 12.
Great how the offensive line has done in kind of these mismatched groups last few weeks, and how do you feel about the health of stuff this week?
They've done outstanding. We've won. We're 3-0 with a hodgepodge. So, I mean, they've just all stepped up. I mean, like I said, Blake Miller hasn't played left tackle since high school, and all of a sudden he's had to go and start and play, 2 basically full games at left tackle. It's been good. Trent Howard has really saved us. He's come through for us once again. I guess he's just our November savior. It's two years in a row he's had to really step up. Harris Sewell, same thing. But we came into this season really feeling great about our depth. I mean, we felt, and it's come through for us. I mean, we needed it. I mean, because we looked at the 5 guys that started the season, and Sadler and Harris and Trent as guys that have all starter experience, and that wasn't even counting Linthicum. So it's really saved us, that type of depth, because we're not just feeling. I mean, these guys have played and they got experience. Harris started some games last year, got a ton of experience. Obviously, Trent and his experience last year helped his confidence. The biggest challenge was at tackle, and then especially with, because we felt really good about tackle, so we played Mason earlier in the year, and then we're down to 1 game, so trying to hold him to give us another good option. So they've done a nice job.
You see a lot of similarities with what Beamer has been doing in South Carolina, the way he's building his program, to the way you built here. You both were walk-on receivers at your respective schools. He hypes a lot. You hyped a lot when you were building your program, just trying to build up your players and build up the positivity around the program. Have you had a chance to kind of look at what he's done and see any similarities to what you did in your first 4 years in building this program?
The only thing I can tell you is I've known Shane way before he was the South Carolina coach. And, we've always been friends. I think, the biggest similarity is he believes in his players. He believes in his people. He's a positive, optimistic guy. I've always tried to be that way in my life. And, and I think he's just a good person. He's got a great wife, just like I got a great wife. That's shout out to both of them, because trust me, he nor I would be where we are without those two. But as far as how they run their program and all that stuff, I'm not in tune to the inner workings of how he operates daily. I don't know all that. I just know he's a great guy and he's a good person. And he's got a great perspective. Again, I think he believes in himself and he believes in his decisions and he believes in his people and he's an optimistic guy. I think that's probably similarities. But I've always believed when I got this job, there's a lot of things that we hadn't done. And listen, I better believe in myself because there wasn't a lot of belief in me outside of Terry Don Phillips and our president and our board. There wasn't a ton of belief, and there shouldn't be. It's not like I had some long track record, but I always had a lot of belief in myself, and I also think he's passionate about the job. He's passionate about what he does. He loves the job. He loves football. So do I. And he loves where he's doing it. So do I. So I think those are all similarities, but done a great job. I mean, he really has. I mean, he's done a really good job, and I'm happy for him.
You said that, you never wanted to be in a situation where the players were getting paid.
I did not say that. Never said that. Never said that. Never said that.
You
Said I don't
if
want to be
they-
a part of a professionalization of college athletics.
Well, I think your words
No
were they got
scholarship, get
paid
away from a
to find
scholastic
something
model.
else to do, I think was your quote. That is a
No.
very popular quote.
No.
That they got paid.
No, that's not accurate. That's not accurate. I said not if the professionalization, which would mean we do away with scholastic, the scholastic part of college. That's what I said. That's what somebody wrote. That's what people like to put out there. It ain't never been what I said.
My question just, are you comfortable?
I love it.
Are you
I love it.
comfortable with
I think
the
it's
way
great because we've kept a scholastic model. Because 98% of these guys aren't playing professional sports, and they're going to be done with football when they're like 23. And it's awesome because they're going to have an opportunity. We have more opportunity than we've ever had to help prepare them for what's next. Just like that's always been a focus of ours. But now we got to have a little bit more hands-on opportunity. Stuff we've always done from a financial literacy, tax education. Now you got some real opportunity, and I still see it as our responsibility to prepare them for what's coming next, and so that they're not a statistic. We've always taken pride in that, as we've built, men through this program and equipped them through this program. We've always taken pride. Now you got real opportunity to do that and help them maximize that. But we know 98% of these guys aren't going to play professional athletics. So we need to help them maximize the opportunity, but we need to do it in a way that when they're 26, 27, 28, they're not looking back going, God, I didn't have anybody around me that was giving me good counsel, guidance. Like, we're going to have financial planners in here twice a week. There's going to be a lot of opportunity to really teach these guys. Real skills, and stuff that we've always done, but now you got some hands-on opportunity. But we're not going away from a scholastic model. They got to go to class. We're in the education business. I know that's not a popular. Nobody wants to talk about that. But I wouldn't be here doing this job if I didn't have my education. I could have been the greatest football player in the history of football. I wouldn't be standing here if I didn't have my degree.
All right, Dabo Swinney. And just to comment on that last part, I agree with what he's saying about educating the guys and making sure they get their degrees, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm sorry, he cannot continue to maintain that he's not dealing with professionalism. Here was his quote from back in 2014, quote, "As far as paying players, professionalizing college athletics, that's where you lose me. I'll go do something else. Because there's enough entitlement in this world as it is," end quote. That's his exact quote. So he did say paying players, quote, professionalizing college athletics. Well, it's always been professional. So that's nothing new. And I don't care how you spin it. If you're giving somebody money for doing something, they are professionals. If they're doing something for you under your guidance, they are professional, in this case, athletes. They're professional athletes. If you pay somebody to come in and do a piano concert for your school, they're a professional pianist. So I just wanted to say the word pianist.
I just wish he would quit doubling down on this. Nobody could foresee back in 2014, unless he's the most misquoted coach in the history of college football, and I can't imagine that's the case. That was his exact quote. I can't believe the writer misquoted him that badly. So he needs to stop doubling down on this and say, look, back in 2014, that was my thinking. I never foresaw that this would happen to this point. I'm comfortable with it now because no one believed he was going to walk away from the contract he has right now. First off, his agent would never let him walk away from that much money. Excuse me.
Right.
But secondly, Dabo, just stop doubling down on this. Just say you made a mistake. Your opinion was wrong. I've changed my mind, and let's move on. But you did say you would walk away if we started paying the athletes, and everybody knows you're not going to.
Mm-hmm. And it
So,
is.
I mean, your opinion was wrong, and that's okay.
And it is pay for play, and they're going to have to up their game when it comes to recruiting because they're losing players to other schools offering more money. And the players I guess, are making their decision based on the money. I mean, it's like, you got players who are going to worse situations. Why would you go to a worse situation than a place where you got a chance to play for championships if you weren't going for the money mostly? And we'll be back.
Set your youth up for a lifetime of financial success with Smart Start from Founders Federal Credit Union. Smart Start products and educational resources help teach kids and teens the basics of saving, budgeting, and smart spending. Help them learn smart money skills to jumpstart their financial journey with Smart Start savings, debit, certificates, and educational resources. Learn more at foundersfcu.com/smartstart. Federally insured by NCUA. Membership qualification required. Terms and conditions apply.
There's a lot of things we take for granted in our lives. Your home's AC will run cool. Your drive-through coffee will be hot. And the car will start when it's time to take your kids to school. It's when things don't go as planned that you start thinking about who to call and where to turn. The good thing is, you can prepare for life's most difficult days by calling the Larry Lucas Agency today. Larry is a State Farm agent that has been taking care of people across South Carolina for more than 2 decades. You probably have insurance, but switching is easy, and bundling can save you hundreds or more. Most importantly, the Larry Lucas Agency can help you choose the protection you want at the price you want. All backed by South Carolina's #1 home and auto insurance company. Visit LarryLucasAgency.com today or give Larry a call at 803-799-1998. Like a good neighbor, Larry Lucas State Farm is there.
You've put in the work for your education. The extra early, extra late, extra work. That's because you understand education opens doors to better pay, better opportunities, and a better you. Being educated about playing the lottery is no different. It helps you be a better player, one who knows when to play and when to take a rain check. The lottery's a game, so let's keep it fun. Learn more at sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
All right, very quickly, by the way, in recruiting, Clemson got a quarterback commitment for this class. We'll tell you about that coming up. Should have mentioned that earlier. But Pat in Lexington, see if we can squeeze you in 60 seconds here, sir. Go right ahead.
Hey, Phil. Hey, I don't get to listen much, but these long traffic days have kept me in the car. I really enjoy y'all's show a lot.
Well, good. I'm glad you're stuck in traffic so you can hear us.
There you go. But I do enjoy the show.
Thank you.
And something I've never been able to get through, but I wanted to just say this real quick. I'm a big South Carolina Gamecock fan, but not a big Beamer fan. I know that's probably, that's something you shouldn't say right now, but I'm proud of what he's doing and all that kind of stuff. But I've gotten really irritated with sometimes after, especially you have asked him a tough question. He kind of crawls up and, acts like a petulant child. But I just want to tell you, I appreciate you asking the tough questions. I know probably people told you that, but I love the way you don't get these softballs like the rest of them do. You call Dabo out. I've grown to really like Dabo, even though I'm a Carolina fan. But thanks for what you do, man. You're really the best guy we got out there holding them to the carpet on things. So I really appreciate it.
Hey, man, I appreciate that phone call, and a happy Thanksgiving to you. We got to hit the break. Be right back.
For Thanksgiving, we'll have on and off showers. It'll be heavy at times. The high reaches 72. A cold snap arrives for Black Friday. Mostly sunny skies, but only 58 as our high temperature. I'm Cal Moss with your on-point local weather.
Tradition and quality. That's what you get with H&J Cattle Company, where local third-generation farmers ensure you receive the finest beef in South Carolina. Our registered Hereford and Wagyu cattle are raised with sustainable practices, without growth hormones, antibiotics, or animal byproducts. Taste the difference with the highest quality beef guaranteed. Order now at hdjcattle.co or on Instagram and Facebook at H&J-Cattle.co. Again, H&J-Cattle.co, where ethics meets quality.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting Australia's House of Representatives has passed a bill that would ban children younger than 16 years from social media. That leaves it to the Senate to take the next step in finalizing the world-first law. The major parties on Wednesday backed the bill that would make platforms including TikTok, Facebook, Snapchat, Reddit, X, and Instagram liable for fines of up to 50 million Australian dollars for systemic failures to prevent young children from holding accounts. Israel approved a ceasefire agreement with Lebanon's Hezbollah militants, setting the stage for an end to nearly 14 months of fighting linked to the ongoing war in the Gaza Strip. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 123 points, the Nasdaq rose 119, the S&P advanced 34. More details at srnnews.com.
Nothing is more important than our...
Well, hard to believe, but my son Jacob has joined his sister Hayden down at the College of Charleston. 2 kids in college at once. Yikes. Am I going into debt to pay for their education? Nope. I've had my kids enrolled in the Future Scholar 529 program for years. We've had a little money taken out of our account every month, and now I'm prepared. Here are some of the great features of the Future Scholar 529 program. 100% of your contributions are deductible on the South Carolina tax return. In addition, you'll pay no federal or state tax when you withdraw these funds for your education expenses. This is good for in-state schools, out-of-state, even some international schools. And there's no minimum amount that you have to start with. Your 529 savings can be used for tuition, for fees, room and board, books, computers, a whole lot more. Are you ready to get started? Visit futurescholar.com. That's futurescholar.com. Remember, no state funds are used to market Future Scholar, and Future Scholar is self-supported and does not receive taxpayer funding.
Hey y'all, my name's Ted from Flight Deck Restaurant. With the holidays approaching, people are looking for places to hold large parties. Flight Deck Restaurant has what you need. We have 4 different rooms that can accommodate groups from 12 all the way to 120 people. As long as you eat dinner with us, Flight Deck does not charge a rental fee for the room. Flight Deck Restaurant can accommodate wedding receptions, rehearsal dinners, Christmas parties, birthday parties, anniversary parties, civic organizations that need to have a regular place to meet. Flight Deck Restaurant is a full-service restaurant and we can provide audio-visual equipment. Please consider Flight Deck Restaurant in Lexington. Thanks y'all and God bless.
Just like Chris mornings, college football rivalries, and your in-laws that won't leave, Black Friday deals are back again at Palmetto State Armory. Whether you're a cranberry sauce lover or hater, you're going to love the deals from Holison, Savage, and 6 Hour. We have BOGO deals on Hey Dude shoes, $100 off select Costa sunglasses, and of course, more savings on PSA rifles and pistols than you could shake a turkey leg at. Stores open at 6 a.m. on Black Friday with deals lasting through the weekend while supplies last. Check out PalmettoStateArmory.com for all the deals and to find a location closest to you.
Here's a shocker. It gets hot in South Carolina. Seems kind of crazy that if you got a home or you got a business, you're sick of the power companies controlling you, demanding rate increases every 6 months, sick of your power bill going up. You can't even pick your power company, but you can choose Broker Solar to give you some control over that bill. Solar panels are not free like some of these stupid yard signs say. These door knockers often, well, they're scam artists. Not Broker Solar. They don't go knocking on the doors. I told Ken I want some incentive for our Point family listeners. So purchase a system from Broker Solar. Your first solar panel is free. Look, I'm not into scare tactics, but this is an election year, and the way things are going, well, maybe it's time to stop relying on the government or these power companies. Broker Solar offers you control. Solar can save you money. These solar batteries are amazing. What a huge difference they can make. Do your homework. Online, it's brokersolar.com, or just call Ken. I trust him. I really do. You can also. 807-7417. That's 807-7417.
The Sports Talk Recruiting Report is sponsored by Seawell's Catering.
All right, let's give you the recruiting report tonight, brought to you by the good folks over at Seawell's. We got a menu for Seawell's tomorrow, Wednesday, closed Thursday, Friday, but what do we have on the menu for tomorrow?
Tomorrow sounds pretty good. Hamburger, steak, and onions, southern fried chicken, and teriyaki glazed salmon. Today apparently was beef sliced beef brisket Tuesday.
But tomorrow sounds really good as well.
Yeah.
So make plans to get there for the daily luncheon buffet over at Seawell's on Rosewood Drive. Once you get through the holidays, of course, you might be thinking about some special events in 2025. Well, don't mess around. Call Seawells and let them handle everything related to the catering side of things. That means the setup, the cleanup, and everything in between. 803-771-7385 is the number. SeawellsCateringSC.com online is how you can reach them. So today, Clemson got a commitment at quarterback for the 25 class. Of course, they were looking for one after they lost their previous quarterback, Blake Hebert, when he flipped to Notre Dame in October. So Chris Denson, 6'3", 190, Plant City, Florida, he is switching from Coastal Carolina, where he committed in April, to Clemson. He had
so
a
Clemson paid him more, huh?
I'm not sure in your position.
I
don't think in your position as the voice of the Chants, you should comment on this story.
That's the excuse that Clemson gives when they lose a player. So when they steal a player from another school, is that the reason why?
You shouldn't comment. Minnesota and Pitt were two of his other big offers, and also South Florida and Arkansas State. This season, 142 of 217 for 23-34, 28 touchdowns, and only 3 interceptions. And on top of that, he had 113 carries for 1,159 yards, 11.9 per carry, and 12 touchdowns. As a junior, he was the Florida FACA 4M Player of the Year, and he was a 64% passer, 21-47, with 26 touchdowns and 8 picks, and he rushed for 688 and 3 touchdowns. And he's left-handed on top of that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So he is headed to Clemson for this year. That gives Clemson now 14 commitments in the class. Meantime, South Carolina staying on. Christ Church receiver Jackson Rep came in for his official visit over the weekend. They have stayed with him, Shane Beamer and Mike Furry, despite him having a torn ACL early in the season that wiped out his season. They loved him in camp because of his just blazing speed. And he's working hard to get back to that, and he tells us everything is looking good. He had a great weekend at South Carolina, got reassured by the coaches that the offer is still on the table, and they definitely want him in the program. He'll announce something officially on signing day. His junior year was spectacular, 63 catches, 1,510 yards, and 27 touchdowns, and he had 2,393 all-purpose yards and 32 total touchdowns. Clemson is involved and is offered Milton, Florida safety Caden Hall, 6'3", 195 in the 26 class. Georgia, Tennessee, Florida State, Alabama. Those are some of the other top offers for him. Clemson safeties coach Mickey Kahn has picked up in the recruiting effort and is in regular contact with Hall. He was there for the Louisville game despite the loss, had a really good time on the visit, and saw a lot of things at Clemson he had not seen before. So the Tigers figured to be in the hunt with him moving forward. USC commitment linebacker Rodney Colton of Newton, Georgia, was offered by Louisville, and he plans to visit Texas A&M this weekend per Rivals. There you go. The recruiting report tonight right here on Sports Talk. Hard to believe the early signing day is a week from tomorrow. So it is coming at you fast. Never excited to get up early in the morning.
Excited, Phil?
And watch the names roll in. Yeah, I am excited to get it over, but it's never over because we're already into the next class. So when is it over? It ain't over till it's over.
Do you still have to fax in your
They talk about
LI?
faxing, but I think they do it, electronically now. I think maybe. I don't think they rely on the old fax machines
what a
anymore.
shame.
Yeah. All right, let's go to Shane Beamer as he met with the media today in Columbia. This will be his 4th round with Clemson. He is 1-2 thus far, having won up at Clemson in 2022, hoping to repeat, and who knows if they can pull it off, where they might go next. Here's Shane Beamer.
Got a big challenge on our hands. Dabo's done an awesome job with his team this year. Disappointing game 1 against Georgia, but got a lot of respect for the way they didn't listen to all the noise about him and their program and their team after that game, and just stayed focused on getting better and winning the next one, and they absolutely have. They've been on a roll since that game as well, certainly playing their best football right now. For him personally, a ton of respect for him as a person, human being, coach. The consistency that he's had year in, year out at his place is remarkable and really hard to do. I saw my dad do it at Virginia Tech with the consecutive 10-win seasons that he had, and you see Dabo doing the same thing, which I've got, it's a huge testament to their program when every single week in that conference, they're basically getting the opposing team's best shot because they're all trying to knock off Clemson because of the run they've had in the ACC. So a lot of respect for him, and he's got a great football team, like always. Quarterback Cade Klubnik is playing great right now, the best ball of his career. Shows his athleticism, ability to make all the throws, run. Veteran offensive line. I know they've had some injuries there, but even the guys that have come in to replace some of those injured guys have done a really good job. Maffa, the running back, is a load. Can hurt you inside, can hurt you outside, and they ride him, and rightfully so. Receiving core, a lot of the guys that we played last year, but then obviously it's the two freshmen that have come in and made a difference with their team this year. They're fantastic players, and Antonio Williams in the slot's a really good player, obviously. We know all about him and his talent level for sure. Defensively, every year they've got an amazing defense, and this year's no different. They're big and physical, strong on the line of scrimmage. They've got guys that they have depth there, tackles that can play ends that can play tackles. The linebackers are really, really good. Carter, I'll be glad when he's out of there. We got Trotter out of there last year, but Carter's still around, and he is a fantastic player. A ton of respect for him. Love watching him. 17 Woodaz is a great player. We recruited the heck out of Sammy Brown and know what kind of player he is. So they're really good with the way they're able to move those guys around, whether it be Woodaz playing out in space as the Sam linebacker nickel or playing in the box as a Mike linebacker with Brown in there as well. So I know he's been banged up, but they've been able to develop depth behind him, and then really good in the secondary also. And then they present problems on special teams. Maffa has been involved in the return game. Antonio's back there returning punts, and he's hard to bring down. And they do a good job. They know what they're doing. So big challenge, big opportunity. Our guys are excited to go up there and be a part of this game, and need to have a great week of practice and give ourselves a chance to try and go 1-0 again, which has been our mentality all year, and this week is no different.
You mentioned Sunday about wanting to control the message with your team before you cut them loose for a day or so. So now that they're back from the wild and with you guys, how have things been? How'd they respond this first day in practice?
I think they've been good. We talked about it a little bit on Sunday, Hale, what I said on Saturday night. We play Saturday. We bring them in on Sunday afternoon. We have a 1:45 team meeting on Sundays, and then we don't see them again as far as a full team until Tuesday morning. So I addressed it a little bit on Sunday, just in regards to you're going to be out in the wild, as you say, for the next 2 days before we see you again. Let's make sure we have an understanding of this opponent, this game, our mindset, especially this week because we don't have class, so you've got no all day Monday with no classes. So they got a lot of time on their hands. And then, this morning was like any other team meeting that we normally have to start the week, in that we introduced the opponent just like we've done and talked about their offense, defense, special teams, coaching, and what we need to do to win the football game. And I'm not dumb. I know it's magnified, and it's magnified this year because of what we've done. It's magnified because we're a ranked team. Clemson's been a ranked team all these years. Finally, South Carolina comes in here as a ranked team. So it's magnified and big and has implications because of what we've done, along with Clemson, which they've done each year. So, for us, it's the team that prepares the best and coaches the best and plays the best is going to be the one that wins on Saturday, not the one that gets caught up in whatever on social media or talking in press conferences and things like that. So we just need to focus on going 1-0, and that's been our message all year, and this week's no different.
Yeah, going off of that, emotions are always so heightened this week, specifically with that side of it, the intensity of this rivalry and everything on the line. How do you get them to channel those emotions to where it's beneficial to the play on Saturday and not detrimental to it? Yeah,
this is a game where Dabo's not going to have to go in the meetings throughout the week and in the locker room on Saturday and motivate his guys to play hard, and neither am I. I mean, I'm sure both teams are ready emotionally to play today. if they said, you got to be up there, we'd hop on the bus and head up today and go play. So it's one, making sure you keep what I've talked to our guys about, just, keep your routine throughout the week as well, which is a little bit different this week because of the class situation. But keep your routine and just do what you have to do to prepare to go play your very best on Saturday. And the emotions are, part of it. And it'll be an emotional game throughout, and there'll be electricity in the air, and it's awesome to be a part of. I mean, this is fun and exciting. Last year at this time, we were 5-6. Like, that was, I don't want to say pressure, but that wasn't fun. 5-6, and if you don't win, the season's over. That's a different level of mindset than what we have this week, where this is fun and exciting to be a part of. And to me, this is going to be a yearly occurrence. Like, we're not going anywhere. Our program, we're only continuing to ascend. And Dabo and Clemson have shown they're not going anywhere. And I think a battle of ranked Carolina versus ranked Clemson, that's gonna, with playoff implications in my mind, is going to be a yearly occurrence around here. So everybody better get used to it. And that's what I've told our guys, is this is fun and this is exciting. But at the same time, once the game starts, it gets down to blocking and tackling and playing with great fundamentals, and that's what's going to win this game.
In this new era of college football, you guys have 20-something new transfers, a bunch of freshmen, guys who weren't around the rivalry at all. Like, do they care about the rivalry, or is it just another game?
I think there's a fine line. I think they certainly care about the rivalry. I don't think you can be here long without hearing about Clemson. And that's what I think is cool about this rivalry is it's in all sports. I mean, y'all have heard me say it before, probably getting ready to play Clemson. At other places that I've been, they're only really worried about the football game each year and maybe basketball. But here it's like a real big deal when you play them in any sport. And so I don't think it takes long for any new arrival to get here and figure out, the Clemson game at the end of the season is really important to the fan base here at South Carolina and in this state as well. And even if you did just get here, Lenoris may not have grown up watching this game, but this is one that's always on Thanksgiving weekend, that people are always, one of the rivalry games that people are always tuned into, in my opinion. You may not quite realize what it is, but once you get there and experience it and ride in on the bus and walk out there and get out there for pregame warmups, there's just a little bit of a different feel as well. So, but again, get back to just prepare yourself during the week to go play well on Saturday. And then once the game starts, a lot of that goes out the window, and it just gets down to playing football and who can play more winning football than the other team.
You alluded to the improvement of Clemson's offense from the beginning of the year back in that game against Georgia in August. And a lot of that has to do with the run game and Phil Maffa. And I think they almost run for like 200 yards a game. But what's going to be something that's going to be imperative for you guys to be able to slow it down and make sure they don't dictate kind of the terms and conditions of the game on the ground?
Yeah. You've got to be able to tackle well, which is easier said than done. You've got a big back in Maffa that can make you miss, but he can also run you over. So you've got to tackle well. You've got to be able to, when you get an opportunity, when we're in the backfield and we get around the quarterback, we got to be able to get him on the ground as well. And I think a huge thing for us will just be takeaways. Clemson's third in the nation in turnover margin right now, third. And I know last year, I've obviously followed them closely being in the state. They weren't very good last year. They turned the ball over way too many times last season, and Dabo has said that. They're not doing that this year. That's not a knock on wood. That's like a reverse knock wood. Like, you want them to turn it over, right? Yeah, so you don't want to. You want them to turn it over, but they're not. I mean, I think they've only turned the ball over something like 7 times the entire season, which is crazy. I mean, that's less than 1 a game. So for us, we've got to be able to create takeaways and knock the ball out, force interceptions, errant throws, whatever it might be, and then that gets them off schedule. But if you're not doing a good job tackling and you're not creating takeaways, it's going to be tough. And it's not just Moffitt; it's the receivers are loads and they're hard to bring down, and they're different skill sets. Whether they make you miss, outrun you, they can do it all.
Without giving away too much of your offensive game plan, when like the Citadel rushes for 288 yards using the option game, is that something that you think, hey, I might throw in a couple of these plays just because of what their success they had for them last week?
Yeah. When you look at the stat sheet and you see Citadel went for that, certainly, it opens your eyes as well. And they did a nice job as well. And, parts of our offense, you guys have watched us all season. We may not be under center and look like the old wishbone, but we're doing a lot of triple option elements in our offense where here comes a receiver around and then Lenoris can either hand it to Rocket or pull it. And then if he pulls it, he can pitch it to a receiver. I mean, that's triple option, and that's what, we've been doing. So that's our offense to begin with. But, certainly you look at every game they've played this season in all three phases and break it down and find things that fit you. There's no question about it. But the Citadel came in and did a good job and running the ball. And there's elements of that we'll certainly look at. But we'll also look at elements of what, Pitt did and Virginia did and Georgia did and App State and everyone else at Wake and on and on and on that they've played this season.
All right, Shane Beamer. So you've heard from the coaches on this Talking Tuesday. Both, Chris, have to kind of worry about giving up the run because Citadel, as was pointed out, ran the ball against Clemson, and Missouri ran the ball against the Gamecocks. So they both had to be concerned about that, I'd say.
Without a doubt. I thought Shane Beamer brought up a stat we probably haven't touched on enough, and that's Clemson's ability to force turnovers and not give it up this year. Plus 13 in the turnover margin this year of the Tigers. Very impressive.
All right, we'll be back. Got some final notes coming up.
Your home is where your memories live. It's where you laugh and where you love. We understand the importance of the valuables under your roof, tangible and intangible alike. So no matter what's around the corner, we'll be there, offering you and your family the support that's made Farm Bureau Insurance a trusted name for nearly 70 years. You deserve more. You deserve a promise. Learn more at scfbins.com.
Call me, Alex Satterfield, at 803-749-9171 for all of your Midlands insurance needs.
Call Lawyer Lisa. Experience the difference with Lawyer Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa Hostetler-Brown. Helping an aging loved one arrange for their care can be one of the most difficult things you will ever do. Fortunately, you don't have to navigate this maze alone. Lawyer Lisa's knowledgeable life care team can lead you down the right path. Visit lawyerlisa.com to see how we can help.
Call Lawyer Lisa. Experience the difference with Lawyer Lisa.
7511 St. Andrews Road, Irmo, South Carolina.
Touchstone Energy Cooperative members save more on electricity, and members save more on insurance, groceries, healthcare, restaurants, travel, concerts, and sporting events through Co-op Connections. Touchstone Energy is an alliance of the member-owned electric cooperatives, and as a member, the power is yours. Experience the power of co-op membership with Touchstone Energy and find out how much you can save on electricity and a whole lot more at touchstoneenergy.com.
G3 here with Tsunami Bar Sports, and it's time for a fall preview. That's right, 720 Chris Drive, 378 and I-26, Frontage Road, where you can now preview the best technology for golf known to man. It's the Tsunami Bar. It's live weight. It's the only technology out where you get your tempo and flow going before you play. Now, it also serves as a pattern support tool. 720 Chris Drive, Frontage Road, 378 and I-26. You also can visit the Garage Gym Pro Shop. Pick up your tools, take them home, and while you're here, tour the Scramble Course 6-hole pitch and putt right now.
All right, final notes. Got some finalists for all these individual end-of-year awards for players. Walter Camp Player of the Year finalists, Travis Hunter, Ashton Jaunty, and Cam Ward. The Davey O'Brien finalists, Dylan Gabriel, Shador Sanders, Cam Ward. Thorpe Award finalists, Jade Berrien, Caleb Downs, Malachi Starks. The Bednarik Award finalists, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Caleb Downs, Bolitnikov, Travis Hunter, Tetero McMillan, and Nick Nash. I like that name, Nick Nash. Maxwell finalists, Ashton Jaunty, Travis Hunter, Dylan Gabriel. Doak Walker finalists, Omarion Hampton, Ashton Jaunty, Caleb Johnson. Outland finalists, Kelvin Banks Jr., Mason Graham, Walter Nolan, Lou Groza, Kenneth Almendaris, Ryan Fitzgerald, who South Carolina recruited, by the way, and Alex Rayner. So there you go. No locals on the list. A few other notes to share with you here in our final moments tonight. Don't forget, we will be with you tomorrow night heading into the weekend. Some changes on the rosters for the Touchstone Energy Cooperatives Bowl, December 21st in Myrtle Beach. Looks like this. Keyshawn Washington of Somerville replaced with Noah Lucas of Lower Richland. Josiah Dwyer of Mid-Carolina. It's got MC here. Replaced with Artern Kalinkin of Lexington. Jacarian Keenan, MC, or is that Marlboro County? Marlboro County.
Just about to look up
My
for
bad.
you. Okay.
My bad. Marlboro County. And I think these Marlboro County situations might be related to their.
Ineligible?
Yeah. So again, Josiah Dwyer, Marlboro County, replaced with Artem Kalinkin of Lexington. Jacarion Keenan, Marlboro County, replaced with Dario Porcher, Philip Simmons. Ryan Love of Irmo replaced with Robert Stevens of Greenwood. J.T. Lott of Saluda replaced with Jaden Martin of T.L. Hanna. Derek Smalls of Battery Creek replaced with Will Virgilio from Oceanside Collegiate. All right, what else do we have here? USC defensive coordinator Clayton White nominated for the Broyles Award for the college football's top assistant coach.
I would think he'd be one of the front runners, wouldn't he?
I would think so.
Job he's done with USC's defense this year.
I would think so. Furman put 13 on the All-Southern Conference team.
Wow.
I mean, for a bad year, that's awesome.
Yeah, no
but
doubt.
many of those are freshmen. They had like 6 or 7 on the all-freshman team, so maybe the future is bright. USC linebacker Demetrius Knight has accepted an offer to play in the Reese's Senior Bowl. All right. And Temple's president, John Fry, says they'll have to step back and assess the football program. He was once the president at Drexel, and he penned a Wall Street Journal op-ed entitled, quote, "We're glad we say no to college football," end quote.
Wow.
In 2016. He became the new prez at Temple this month, so good luck with the Temple football team.
I mean, they're a mess.
Yeah.
I saw them earlier in the season. They draw flies. They play where the Eagles play, which
Right.
is somewhat unfortunate. It's too big a stadium for them, but and they fired their coach a week or so ago. But yeah, I don't know how you contend in the current setup of college athletics without a football program. Maybe you drop back and go go FCS maybe. But yeah, to totally get rid of college football, I don't think that would work at Temple or anywhere else for that matter that currently has it.
All right, Turkey Eve for us tomorrow night. Lee Sterling will be here 6:20. Mike Morgan, 6:35. 7:05, it'll be Chalk Talk with Chuck and Ellis. And 7:35, the M&M Boys with Will and Corey. You do not want to miss that. Perfect.
How excited do you think Corey's going to be tomorrow night?
I think he'll be pretty damn excited. And you can go ahead and start, kind of eating your turkey and get ready for the big day with a little appetizer from us tomorrow night. Thank you, Chris.
Yes,
And
sir.
Thank you, Josh. And thank you, everybody, for being with us. We'll see you tomorrow.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting.